Uh, this is my review of the video game. I purchased this game about a year ago. It was on sale over New Year's Eve on Steam. I think I paid around $15 for it. I've been playing Tropico probably since the early 1990s, since the first version came out. And I've probably played on different platforms. I got up to version 6. It doesn't change that much from version to version. Maybe the maps get bigger, and they added the mod beyond the modern times, like the space program. I don't remember if that was in the earlier versions, and maybe things like bridges and tunnels. But in general, the game mostly stays the same from version to version. They do change the graphics a little bit. If you look at the church in the older versions, it's going to look similar to this. And so when I played the game, at first I was a little disappointed because really get tired. I've been playing these types of games since the 1980s, and you really get tired of doing the same thing over and over again. But once I got into it, I really started to like where I was going. And the problem I had was I wasn't able to extend the mandate, and I had to figure out how to make sure I did that every time. Sometimes I just wasn't paying attention. And the next problem was making money, and what I did was I put lots of sugar farms and rum distilleries. Now, this is an example of one. And the reason why is because in the previous games, that's how I made lots of money. It was the sugar with the rum distillery. So I started it out, I made some money, and then for no reason that I could understand, I started losing money. The reason why is because my customs office had burned down, and I didn't realize it. And I got to 2 million in debt, and I had to figure out what to do. It took me a couple hours to figure it out, but I figured out that the customs office, which brings in extra fees, it does something. It does something that helps you with exports. And once I figured that out, I saved money by cutting the costs on everything, such as an apartment building. I would bring the budget down to 1 until I had enough money to rebuild the customs office. And you see how the ministry is? You see it has vacant positions. These people, because of the way the game advances, they die off, and you have to go in and replace them. And you should pay attention because some of them will make you more money and have other benefits. Don't assume that the intellectual candidate is the right one for the job. For example, I used the communist for education. He's the best choice. So I got up to 14.8 million. One of the issues I have is that even on the low graphical setting, my computer slows down too much, and it really makes the game a little bit more unplayable. It's difficult to scroll the game around. And there's another issue with pollution, and I'll show you the overlay, which is beauty. Once your beauty reduces, you lose all your tourism, and my tourism was doing well. But I don't know what happened that got rid of it. You can see that my pollution isn't that bad. But for some reason, all of this was green, and all of this was green, and nobody comes anymore. So you lose all that business. I haven't figured out how to fix it yet. The music has always been good with Tropico 6. Kind of easy to play. It's just a straight builder game. There is a little bit of a conflict element. You do have rebels, and you do have foreign conflict. They've done little... they've been a minor bother to me. I rarely have to check on them. Rarely have to see what they're doing. I did not plan out the map very well. I just randomly built haphazardly. And I did make a few mistakes. For example, here is my automobile plant, and my steel plant is all the way up over here, so you can imagine what happens. The steel never gets delivered to the automotive plant. And I only have one other plant that uses steel, which is weapons. So the cars never produce, or they just produce so slowly, and you could be going for many hours of gameplay and they're not producing. So you do want to make sure that you do set up a little bit properly when you arrange everything. The other thing that I did was I spent a lot of times watching my docks to see what I had in supply, See, like meat, wool, hides, leather, and then I would build my industry near the dock to process whatever is in supply. All these are fashion company for apparel, and the reason why is because the dock has materials. Well, I guess it doesn't right now, but it was literally pulling in. Oh, that's not the dock. This is a dock. It has wool and hides and leather. It has materials to make apparel, and I've got the textile mill right here. So I try to do that. You definitely want to go with the solar power because the solar power does not consume anything. If you have to consume something, you might miss a delivery, and by missing a delivery, it'll shut off your power. So I definitely say go with the solar power. In general, everything you want to run on a higher budget with all the upgrades. There's a few cases like with the fashion company where the upgrade seems like a little bit of a waste of money. And there's going to be some cases where you're not going to run with the full budget. But you can see I was able to crank up to 14.8 million. Probably was playing for about 2 days to get up that high. Other than that, you know, I would like to continue playing. I am a little bit concerned about the speed of the game. I'm going to show you an example. This is what it looks like when I put it up on...
Weather reports predict an end to the drought. When your mouth's so dry, doesn't water seem extra?
It's actually not that bad, but you see that there's a little bit of delay popping up the window. And it scrolls with a little bit of a jitter. This is poor programming. I'm a computer programmer. They should know when this is happening, and they should accommodate for it, and they don't. You see the vehicles skip along. The way to do it is when you scroll the game, just put bounding boxes around all the objects so that the game scrolls faster. I mean, then you'd have a playable game. And you can see rotating, you know, it's not that bad right now, but once I start playing for a while, see, it skips around a little bit. Once I start playing for a while, it's going to become unplayable. And I have to pause it when I build things. This is me scrolling smoothly. I do play on a laptop. It has a pass mark of 8500, and it's the MX150 graphics card. It's not the fastest, but it's actually pretty good. So you probably want to have a good graphics card. And if you like the old Tropico, I don't know if upgrading is going to make you think, wow, it's going to be a new game. It's not really going to be a new game. It's going to be mostly the same thing. It's very similar to the older versions. I really don't have the older versions to compare it to, but I look at it and I think, wow, this is nearly identical to playing the older versions. There's a few changes. They're very minor. I don't think they took away any features, but for the $16, I think it's worth it. You know, I judge it. What if you go see a movie? A movie costs $8 to $10, and you get an hour and a half of enjoyment. So for me, for $16 for playing for a couple of days, to me, I consider that to be a good value. But I wouldn't spend $50 on this game, especially if you have Tropico 5. I have not installed any of the paid download packs, the DLCs they call them. I did buy it on Steam. I bought the game on Steam. So I haven't tried any of the download packs unless they were free. Maybe I installed some of them. Other than that, I do think it's a good game. I wish we had more games like this. It's not for beginners, and I wouldn't say it's a super advanced game, but it's on the higher end of intermediate because there is a complex chain. For example, you can take a raw material and you might have to process it 3 times before you get a finished product out of it. Like a car, you might have to go through multiple supply chains. I've played games that had more complicated supply chains than this one, but it is higher end intermediate game towards advanced. And if you're an advanced player, yeah, I think you're going to enjoy it, but maybe not perpetually. It's not going to be the type of game where you're going to play it for the next year if you have another game that you might want to play also, like Civ 6 or something like that. Okay, so I think it's a good game. I do recommend you buy it if you've never tried it before and you like city builder games. I think it's better than. I think that of all the city builder games that are out right now, where you literally drop down buildings and roads and things like that, I would say this is either the top game or one of the top two. I also recommend Cities in Motion 2. If you have any questions or comments, please post below.